Hello world, it's Berto Prey 5 Cupslaw, and welcome to a review of Star Trek Prodigy, Season 1, Episode 6, Kobayashi, which I believe is the same title Star Trek Discovery used for an episode earlier this season. And usually would I even remember that? No. Except that Kobayashi actually refers to the Kobayashi Maru, which is something out of real Star Trek. And second, they put Prodigy's season on hold just so they could get 5 episodes of Discovery in its place. And I didn't review Prodigy for the first half of the season because I've watched the first 5 episodes. They were okay. They're for kids. They're made for kids. They're not made for adults. But I have to watch it because it's got that Star Trek logo on it. And, what else am I going to do? I need to watch Trek. But it didn't feel fair giving them the Bird O Prey 5 experience review because, like I said, it's not made for me. They come right out in front and say it's not made for me. Unlike Star Trek Discovery, unlike Star Trek Picard, unlike Star Trek Lower Decks. That said, I was kind of feeling bad because I didn't have a review to do today. I watched Ghostbusters Afterlife last night for the first time. It just hit home viewing, and usually I can't get out to a movie theater even if I wanted to. And I know a lot of people loved Ghostbusters Afterlife, and it was a good movie. Don't get me wrong, it was a 4 out of 5, but it wasn't a great movie. I was a bit disappointed. I read the reviews, watched the reviews from some people who, were crying. They were crying at the end of the movie, and I get it, but it was an okay movie. I don't know where this incredible passion is coming from some people. I think maybe it's just been a long time since they've seen something that they didn't hate, that the lack of finding something repulsive has been misplaced for true love. But maybe for me, this morning when I put on Prodigy, thinking, okay, I've had enough disappointment. What's one more half hour? And then to be shocked that, hey, this was actually pretty damn good. Pretty awesome, in fact. That maybe it's my turn. So, guys, if you have not seen Star Trek Prodigy yet, I'm not going to tell you to watch the first 5 episodes. I don't think there's really anything worthwhile. It's here's where we are. A group of kids, and I swear to you not. I know for those of you who know about my persona as God Emperor of Karoga, and the orphans who work the uranium mines there, they're not slaves. Okay, they get valuable life experience and job skills working the mines. So Star Trek Prodigy is a group of orphan miners forced to work as slaves for this crazy despot on this crazy planet where they're mining this very expensive fuel or whatever 24/7 And they're literally orphans. He is stealing orphans from around the galaxy to go into his minds, or his crazy robots doing it for him. Anyway, they're getting rich off of this whatever that they're mining, but he's actually having them mine because he thinks there's a secret Federation starship buried in the mine. Then they finally find the starship, but the miners are smart enough not to let him know, so the miners steal the starship. Miners are all kids, so they're miners. They steal the starship to get away from their, overlords who have enslaved them. And, of course, the first few episodes is the bad guy chasing the kids. And spoiler alert, you could tell this coming pretty easily. The daughter, or the woman, the 17-year-old girl who is one of the leads, is actually the daughter of the slave guy, the slave master. But she hates him too. So she wants to get away just as much as the other kids. And by kids, we have another 17-year-old boy as captain. He's Dal. Gwyn is the 17-year-old girl. We have Jankum Pog, who is a 16-year-old Tellarite. We have Zero, who, a terrible name, but a Medusan, who is an energy being, has no gender or form. But for the sake of this show, they've taken the form of living inside a robot that looks like, a Pokemon with arms and legs. Then we have Roh-Tahk, who is a giant, horrible rock monster, but actually an 8-year-old girl of her species, and very shy. We have Murph, who's kind of the Orville version, Yaphet, but Murph is just a blob who can't talk, and looks more like a horse when they move than Yaphet. But they can't talk. And Dreadnought, comes up with that. That's the Diviner's evil robot, and the Diviner is the slave master despot, ruler of the mines, who is Gwyn's father somehow. And anyway, he's in charge of the mines. And of course, the most important person on the ship is the hologram of Captain Janeway. Now, why is she a captain as opposed to an admiral? I don't know. We don't know. We don't know the exact timing of the star date of the show. I think it'd be problematic if we ever do find out. Although by the end of today's episode, we have a much better idea than we did when the show began. So we'll see. Okay, so now we're all caught up. If you want to watch this series, start here with episode 5, because this episode 5 is a gold mine and a treasure chest to old Star Trek fans like me. And by old, I mean the good Trek. The good Trek. Early on in the episode, we get a flashback to, and this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and that's more par for the course with episodes, a series like this, is that we got a throwback to that game that Wesley uncovered in the TNG episode, the one that was getting everybody high, and I don't know, somebody was going to take over the Federation by replicating these games and giving them out to starships. It's ridiculous. It was the one where you had to just put the circles into the vortexes. Anyway, Dahl is playing this game. Where did Dahl get this game? Who knows? But he's just playing the game in his quarters, and they come in on the bridge, and Jamkin Pog, the Tellarite, and the Rock Woman comes in, and they tell her, hey, and the Medusan, they all want to go back to the Federation. Dahl is the one person who doesn't want to go to the Federation because he's afraid that they're going to get arrested. And plus he's captain. He just decided he was captain. I mean, he is the oldest person there. And Gwyn came on Gwyn came in under arrest, and she was the daughter of the slave master. Nobody trusted her. So it wasn't Gwyn who couldn't be captain. So Dahl was captain, being the oldest, and he's the only one who doesn't want to go back to the Federation. Everyone else does, because nobody's here has heard of the Federation. All they've heard of the Federation is what the hologram Janeway has told them, which is, of course, all good things. And everybody feels like it's the best place to go. In this episode, they also get the first look at the holodeck, because we think we've left the slime monster Murph. We think they left him on the old planet, but it turns out he was on the holodeck the entire time. So Janeway comes in and explains the holodeck, because they're looking at Andoria 4, which is, of course, an ice planet. Dahl's never really felt the snow before, and so Captain Janeway says, "Oh, we can skydive on City Alpha 5." Which, hey, there's another, remember it, City Alpha 5. That's where Khan was. A gladiatorial match with the Vulcan Erpers or something. Defeat Count Dracula and all these other things. And then a Janeway era holonovel, which has her boyfriend that she created on Voyager at that time. So Dahl just starts looking through programs and finds the Kobayashi Maru. She says it's for the greatest captain Starfleet has to offer. And so Dahl is like, oh, she's ready. She's like, I'm not sure. Janeway's like, I'm not sure you're quite ready for that. She's like, how about your silly little Conan disc game? And hands him back the game that infects your brain. And he's like, no, I think I'm good. So Dahl says, once I ace this test, then I'll be as good as any Federation captain, and everybody will have to listen to me. So he turns it on, and we get a beautiful rendition of the Enterprise D's bridge. Now, you're like, wow, the Kobayashi Maru, that's weird. But, okay, I'm interested. And then it cuts away to some other scenes. Really doesn't matter. The slime ball, the Murph, the blob, eats some explosives. Why are there explosive grenades just hanging out in the middle of nowhere? I don't know. But he eats a whole bunch of these grenades, and the rock monster is all afraid for him. Then the Medusan is, I guess, playing doctor and doing a test on Gwen, and he says, "Gwen, you're all cured. Why are you still in Medibay?" She's like, "I'm depressed. I'm sad." She's like, "Why does anybody need me? All I do is speak tons of languages on a ship that can translate all the languages." And the Medusan is like giving out like advice, like they're a professional therapist. and not a child. So the Medusan is like beyond nice. So they start, then we go back to 17 years ago, and the diviner is already an old and weak man. Even 17 years ago, he's still looking for the ship. So it took him 17 years to find the ship, maybe longer. And he's barely alive. He's about to, so now he says they can make he needs to make an offspring because he's going to die if he's the last of his species. And the robot, he's begging the robot, always begging robots. That's always and the robot changes his mind. Oh, okay. Well, he begs the robot to make him an offspring, and the robot puts him in a tank and I guess starts making his offspring, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So now, if you're going to make a clone, you would think the clone would be a guy. Oh, wait, there was the daughter. We are Vonnegut. What? We are Vonnegut. Vonnegut is the girl's actual species. So the robot says he's a Vonnegut. I don't know how a robot and a male produce a female offspring. But here's the thing. They're on the Enterprise D bridge now, and he's like, just give me the best of the best, because he has to pick his crew. Dahl has to pick his crew. And he says, just give me the best people there are. So we have the best of the best as picked by a Starfleet ship. Now, for the record, they do show a pad or a screen, and the first person up, and we don't see a picture, but he says, who's this J.T. Kirk? We already have a captain. We don't need a captain. He's the captain. So, presumably, Captain Kirk was offered up as the best captain of all time by the ship's computer. And I have to say, brav fucking O. Brav fucking O. Okay? Thank you to the space gods or whatever. Because if I had to be here this morning, if I had to argue, had they said anybody but Captain Kirk or Captain motherfucking Pimpan Cisco, I probably would have died. Thank you. We can live. Captain Kirk, there's no better. There is no finer vintage Captain Kirk. Motherfuckers, if they had said Picard, would have been a beatdown. Captain Kirk, thank you. So, Captain Kirk, best captain ever. First crew. Communications officer, Uhura. Fine. Awesome. Now she's in her TOS uniform on the Enterprise D bridge, but you know what? We'll live with it. I don't know why he needs a communications officer. Usually that was held by tactical in TNG, but fine. We have Uhura. I love it, and she looks beautiful. Chief Medical Officer, Beverly Crusher. Okay, this is honestly the worst, but this is the worst mistake they make. I will give it to them. Listen, they have the Enterprise D. I guess they needed someone from the Enterprise D. I don't even know if it's her actress who's making the audio, because most of these are just audio clips from other episodes that they just figured out a way to make work. But Beverly Crusher, come on. Beverly Crusher is without a doubt the worst. I'm not going to say she was a bad doctor, but of all the doctors we've ever seen in Trek that have ever played a season on Trek, including Dr. Pulowski, Beverly Crusher is the bottom. I'm sorry. Okay, there is no doubt that both the Doctor from Voyager or Dr. Bashir are two of the tops of their... And don't get me wrong, I love Dr. McCoy. I do. But where do you find Dr. Crusher on a list between the Doctor from Voyager, who can perform anything because he's got the brains of 10,000 doctors in him, or Dr. Bashir, who is, genetically refined, or whatever he was, to be way beyond normal human being capacity. Either of those people would have been better doctor choices, but fine. We've got Dr. Crusher. I guess, we have to have a redhead at some point, which is fine. She's got her brilliant red hair to bring to her position as doctor. Chief of Security, Odo. Okay, this is a tribute to the late René Auberjonois, and I did tear up a little soot seeing Odo back in Trek. Granted, it's on the bridge of the Enterprise D. It's a little weird. He's also sitting at what I believe is one of those front consoles. That's not where security would be. Security would be in the back where Tasha Yar was. She would be standing in the back where Worf or Tasha Yar used to stand, behind the captain. For what reason they put security up front, I don't know. But you've got Uhura in one, and you've got Odo at the other. That's a little weird. Uhura I could understand. Odo, no, not so much. But man, to see Odo back in Trek, I started to tear up a little. And science officer, Spock. And Leonard Nimoy, Spock. Although, I'll be honest, the 3D look they gave him, kind of ugly. It doesn't do Spock justice. It does not do Leonard Nimoy justice. That said, the audio, they're all Leonard Nimoy clips, but they're clipped from over 30 years of Trek, from his most recent movies, right? From there's a clip in there from one of the JJ films, all the way back to audio clips from TOS episodes. So his voice doesn't sound consistent from one line to the next. I mean, they could have one line coming from a TOS episode, and the next line coming from a JJ movie, and then the final line of the sentence coming from a TOS movie. So that's kind of weird. Almost like they should have just had somebody who sounded like Spock just, reread the line rather than using captured bits of audio. But I guess it was cheaper that they didn't have to, redo it. But I don't care. the point is we've got TOS Spock. We got TOS Spock on the bridge, and that's it. Uhura and Spock and Beverly Crusher. We're getting a Kobayashi Maru. They've struck a mine and they've lost. So we're getting the Kobayashi Maru, which looks a lot like the Kobayashi Maru from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. The first time is so, and Beverly Crusher is saying that the neutral zones separates the Federation from the Klingons. Entering in constitutes an act of war, says Spock. So Dahl's first question is, quick show of hands. Does anyone know anyone on the Kobayashi Maru? No? Nobody knows anyone? He says, so this is easy. Reverse course and warp us out of here. And now Odo says what does it matter if we know anybody on the ship? And so Odo, Beverly, and Uhura, they're all like, we've got to do something. And they're all using sound clips of places where they were argumentative against the captain. And Odo is like, order me all you want. As of now, I'm resigning my commission, which was right from a DS9 episode. And so he's like, okay, then let's go in. And then Odo says, well, if you do this, you might be starting a war, which is from another DS9 episode. And Dahl's like, you just told me you didn't want to go. Now you want to go? Anyway, it all F's up. Obviously, they get blown up, and the computer's like, your assessment score 3%, leadership score 2%, and some other assessment 0.1%. And Dahl is all pissed off. He's like, boot it up again. And he's like, I'm not leaving here until I get this right. And as you can imagine, for somebody who doesn't know the Kobayashi Maru is an unwinnable test, this is going to take a while. And it does. Elsewhere now, we're back on the bridge, and they're looking for how the ship got to where it is. Anyway, the Janeway hologram has realized that she hit a file that's classified, so she doesn't remember how she got there. So the crew is trying to find a way to declassify the files. And you would think that Janeway, being a working hologram from Starfleet, would say if it's classified, you shouldn't be trying to get access. But instead, for some reason, the Janeway hologram is like, yeah, we should be working on this. I'm going to need some coffee. And her coffee cup just materializes out of nowhere. And she apparently is all okay with them trying to break into her classified files. Okay, so back in the holodeck, we see a beautiful Klingon bird of prey. That's right, I forgot to tell you. The Klingon bird of preys are back. And then we see our first, at 15 minutes in, we see a real fucking Klingon for the first time. For the first time since season 1 of Picard, where we saw Worf's picture briefly appear. Worf's picture briefly appear in season 1 of Picard. We finally see a fucking Klingon. And it is a Okay, we did see Klingons in Lower Decks, and yes, they were real TNG Klingons. But now we've seen another Klingon in an episode that takes place on another series, and we've got real Klingons, real TNG DS9 looking Klingons on Star Trek Prodigy. Thank you again, Space God, because if I had to be here arguing about why we have Klingorks in the future, I would have to again possibly die. Thank you, Space Gods. We have real Klingons. Anyway, Dal throws the Tellarite out because the Tellarite does what Tellarites do. They're always argumentative. And he's like, just get the fuck out. And he's like, okay, bridge, computer. Now I need a good engineer. And Scotty looking like Scotty from the movies appears. Or Scotty looking like Scotty from Relics appears. A little overweight with the mustache. And you know what? That's the Scotty I will always remember as Scotty. And he's like, thank you much or whatever for appearing. So now we have definitive proof that Scotty is the best engineer. Sorry, Geordi, not sorry. Now, Miles O'Brien, it could be debated. I am happy that Scotty officially gets best engineer. So Dal is finally cracked it. He's given Dal has given names to all the crew. Earpiece is Uhura. Mustache and Jellyman is Scott. Rolls is Odo. And Big Red is Beverly Crusher. Okay, so he's got it figured out. So first he puts the music up real high so the Klingons can't understand it. So the Klingons can't hear what's coming next. Okay. Engage impulse in a barrel roll loop. Overload warp core 130%. Scotty's doing it. Odo fails to see anything at all. Any reason at all. He sees the only way out is chaos, says Dal. He's like, okay. Then right on cue, 3 Klingon birds of prey. The cloak. What's that Klingon saying? Revenge is a dish best served cold. And he's like, well, he ejects the warp core. And now he's using phasers to blow up the warp core. It destroys the 3 Klingon birds of prey. But doesn't the Kobayashi Maru is still survived. So it's surprised. Everybody's shocked. And now a 4th Klingon bird of prey just decloaks. He's like, no! Weapons and he's like, they're out of, everything's offline. He's like, if only we could get off this bridge. So Spock transports them to the Klingon bird of prey. So now they go into manual combat. All is not lost. Dal has a phaser. He's shooting them. And Spock is, of course, neck pinching them one after another. So Dal is like, oh my God, you didn't tell me you had neck pinching ability. Super, super pinch. And he was like, my congratulations to you, Captain. And he says, Dal the Enterprise. He's like, you guys are all good. He's going to personally escort the Kobayashi Maru to safety. And you think, wait a second. No way somebody else has beat the Kobayashi Maru. That was only supposed to be Kirk's thing. And you're like, this is terrible. How could Dal be allowed to beat the Kobayashi Maru? Or does he? Dal is so proud of himself. He sits down, he puts his feet up, and he launches a photon torpedo and destroys the Enterprise D on the view screen of the Klingon bird of prey. Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful, and it saves itself from destroying canon all at the same time. Hysterical, lovely, beautiful, boom. None of it matters. It's a holodeck. So Spock is with him on the bird of prey, and Spock talks to him again using broken up sentences. He says, you must surely realize you must hold this from the crew. Spock, the crew is dead. The crew is dead. This one line, he was using, I think it was from TOS episodes. He can't tell the crew what happened, what really happened, or he'll lose their respect. The crew's dead, Spock. The crew is dead now. They probably should have picked some better lines to put in, but who cares? It's Spock, and there's no crew left. Crew's gone. And he says, if you tell them, they lose faith and you lose command. Dal says, but he's not perfect. He's never captained a ship. He's never had a crew. What does he know? And then we got the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And so Dal realizes the captain puts the needs of the crew before himself. Maybe he should be using those ears for more than player. And in your own way, you're as stubborn as another captain of the Enterprise, he once knew. And he gives the live long and prosper, and Dal doesn't know what that means and just slaps his hand like it's a high five. So then Dal asks the computer, how is he supposed to win? And the computer says, it's a no-win scenario designed to test how one reacts to a no-win situation. So Dal says, almost had it. Anyway, Dal comes out of the holodeck onto the bridge, and they're seeing all the data fragments that are now becoming readable. Then they see now that the protostar, the ship they're on, was a prototype. It's going to take months to read the raw data, but Dal clicks on something, and we get, I'm sorry, the rock monster clicks on something. And what do you know? We have a holographic playback, and it's Captain Chakotay of the protostar. The protostar was Captain Chakotay's ship. And Captain Janeway was a hologram there on his ship. And the hologram Janeway realizes this wasn't her first crew. So she's starting to remember that her first crew was under Captain Chakotay. How weird is it for Captain Chakotay to have a Captain Janeway hologram on his ship watching what he does? Or maybe I feel it's more weird that he could be commanding the Captain Janeway hologram. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't It feels dirty. It feels very dirty to me as a Voyager fan, or someone who watched Voyager at least, that Captain Chakotay will now be in command of a hologram Janeway. I'm just saying I don't like it. That said, I loved this episode of Prodigy, and the end screen, the first screen of the credits, it's in memory of René Auberjonois, who is Odo, James Doohan, who is Scotty, and Leonard Nimoy, who of course was Spock, who inspire us to go boldly. And I've got to say one more thing. This is a lovely tribute to René Auberjonois, to James Doohan, and Leonard Nimoy. Why did you stop with those three? Why not Aaron Eisenberg, who is Nog? Nog could have been in there. Okay. You could have made a place for him. Could have put him as a tactical officer, or I don't know what, a first officer. You didn't have a first officer. You had Spock as science. I mean, granted, he basically also filled in as first, but he could have been anything. Could have been anything. And I know why you wanted Uhura up there, and granted, I understand. But Uhura, Nichelle Nichols, not dead yet. Okay, so I would have had Aaron Eisenberg instead of Uhura, and I would have had DeForest Kelley instead of Gates McFadden as Beverly Crusher. Because if this was really in memory of, then go full in. Go full in. Maybe they'll have their own tributes to them in another episode. And if that's the case, so be it. But it was still a very good episode. I don't want to make the perfect. Okay, you don't want to make the perfect the enemy of the good, or the good the enemy of the perfect. The perfect would have been with Aaron Eisenberg and DeForest Kelley to be in this episode too. But hell, it's very good that we got René and James and Leonard Nimoy, and that the story treated them with respect above all else. That the story treated them with the respect they deserved above all else. Well done, Prodigy. A 9 out of 10. You have earned it. Kapla.